Hello and welcome back to episode 5. So this is in our Black History Month Saluting Our Sisters podcast, which is part of our Golden Thread series at the Training Hub. In this episode, we talk about how Black History Month is important, the value of Black History Month, but also the fact that this is not just about Black History Month and actually saluting our sisters. So the theme for 2023 should be reflected every month of the year. And how we need to ensure that actually whatever platform we're using, we use positively and ensure that we hold the door open for that next generation or the next cohort of individuals that are coming up after us. I hope you enjoy the program.
I think one of the things that we've talked about in previous months as well, where we're celebrating a specific diversity, for example, South Asian Heritage Month, we've talked about how the month is not what it's about, right? So Black History Month, it's not really about just that month because, we're Black, but we're South Asian throughout the whole year. So how do we make sure that actually, yes, right now, saluting our sisters is the theme, and that's amazing. But how do we make sure that that isn't just an October thing? How are we going to make sure that this is something that's celebrated throughout the year? So, would you see this as, how would you take advantage of this opportunity to make sure that, we don't just focus this, it's not just a tick box that, yes, October's done and Black History Month is done. How are we going to make sure that we keep this conversation going? What do you think needs to happen in primary care to highlight the we talked about at the beginning about the contributions that Black women have made, the fact that they need to be visible. How do we make that happen in primary care?
I think I will look at it in terms of representation.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more present you are, the more you're visible and the more people get to learn about you and get to understand what your story is, and you're able to sort of share. I feel like initially I used to look at things like, I don't want to be political. I just want to mind my business and
get on with
do my thing. But I realized over time that when I notice someone who's maybe not big on role model, but someone who's doing something right, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, they're doing it good, and I wish I could be like that. And sometimes I see them as, oh, they're sort of edifying this thing. I think if I look at it from religious perspective, when I see a lady who's modestly dressed, being kind to people, being nice, and it feels like they're doing all the right things that the religion tells you to do. When I look at them, I want to be like that person. I want to be able to do that much. So I feel like being a Black person in healthcare or in a particular specialty or something like that is a bit of representation as well. Don't just sort of put your head down and get out of the way and sort of hide your face. I think being there and trying to be, I feel it's a little bit more work on us already than we already have, but it will do a little bit of good to the people coming behind us, or people, even if it's not just the younger generation, even if it's our generation as well. Them seeing you, I think it gives a little bit of spring to your step. Meeting that person who sort of looks like you, who sounds like you, who's doing something similar to what you would like to do, gets you feeling like, I can do it. If they're doing it, then I can do it. It gets people more motivated, and it gets your story out there, and people are a little bit more aware of what's happening, what your struggles are, and they're not completely blind to it. Because there's some things that we go through every day of the year, and other people don't even realize it would happen. It's same as, say, a white male and a Black male, for example. Some things a white male will get away with, if someone says, accuses you of that, and you say, no, that didn't happen, it's almost always going to be accepted as, oh, you're right, he said it didn't happen. But if he was a Black male, for example, he's almost always guilty until proven otherwise. So I think seeing people there and seeing how much they go through, understanding their story, learning about them will open your mind a little bit more to about maybe how could I make it easier for them, or how could I sort of learn from them, or what are the things I could do to live with them. So being there, I think being out there, being a bit of representation happening will go a long way. Yeah.
I was listening to I think a podcast a couple of years ago, and he actually said that as a Black person, either you like it or not, you are statistics. So either you like it or not, we are a number on a scale, and we would tip the scale to once in a positive way or in a negative way. And that has impacted the way I move through this world, I have to say, because you want to make a positive impact. You want to impact it in a good way. because there are going to be people that would have never met a Black person until they met you. So you want to leave them with that positive impact. You want to leave them wanting to know more about your, about your, who you, like what you represent and who you are as a person.
I would say, just as everyone has mentioned, to progress further in primary care, and to carry on being celebrated, being noticed, it would be to get involved, because you can't get anywhere without, getting involved and doing the work. So yeah, let's get involved. Let's participate. Use your platform, like Lucy was saying. Use that privilege. In a way, sometimes we feel like we have that imposter syndrome, but use it to your advantage. Don't just, hide it. If you have a light, you're not going to hide it. You are a light, you're a beacon of transportation, of transformation. People are looking up to you. So use that to your advantage. Also, I've even taken inspiration from what Idah also mentioned about focusing rather on the intent of what you're doing. So if it's really about a patient, focus on that. And it's about the results. It's about the impact that you're making. That's what's going to get you recognized. Not just doing it for the attention or for the recognition, but if your intent is for positive or for positivity, that will come across in the end. And also mentorship. It's a very big, it's a very big deal. And it's a hot topic. So sometimes some people have held the door open for us. Some people have helped us. You can do the same for others. So I try to mentor as many people as I can find in church, in my church group. I get all the young ladies together. What are you doing? What courses have you picked? Which unis are you going to? Can I have a look at your personal statement? Making sure people have the access to information, because sometimes it's not because we don't want to get to a certain place. We don't have the information to get us there. So it's also about being informed, and if others aren't, being that person who provides that information, and also seeking mentorship. It doesn't always have to be from someone who looks like you. We already have established that they're in short supply. So you have to make do with what you can get. And not assuming that, you won't get that support because of who you are and what you look like, but just actively sometimes asking. There's no harm in asking, and also advocating for others who have just walked through the door, just helping them to build that confidence as well. Can help everyone.
Uplifting, right? That's it's so true. It's about, it's using that platform in the positive way. And again, I think we put that pressure on ourselves of representation, but actually it's in a really positive way as well, representing all that is good and being that inspiration to others to say, well, actually, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. Paying it forward. So we have this thing called Next Generation GP, where we talk about, well, what have you done and how are you going to make sure that somebody who didn't feel like they can or will be enabled to do what you've just done? What are you going to go home and do to make sure that you can do that for somebody? And it's in that reflective, it's constantly reflecting on what I do and actually am I making sure that I'm letting other people, because it's that whole thing of not doing something for recognition, but actually once you've done something, I think now showcasing it is really important. Not because you want to show off what you've done, but so that you can be that example to people to say, yeah, I did do it, despite all the things that I thought, were going to be impossible, despite all the barriers I thought were there, I did do it. And so you can too. So that's really nice. I mean, you talked about mentorship. Have you, within primary care, because there have been loads of kind of mentorship and coaching kind of projects that have been going on nationally. And I know that there was a BAME sponsorship project that was done by NHSE, and Sonali Kinra, who used to work in Nottingham, was really involved in that nationally. Have you, number one, have you heard of it? And if you have heard of it, did you feel as if you wanted to take part in it? Did you feel as if it was something that was open to you? Did you feel as if it would be something that you would gain from?
I am aware of it, and I didn't participate in it. And I'll be absolutely honest about why I didn't participate, because there was an element of reverse mentoring, wasn't there?
Yes.
So a lot of my white colleagues put their head up and said, "Oh, I'd like to be part of that."
Yeah.
And how much is that about showing? And it possibly is about visibly showing support, and that is great. I think one of the things that we do have a duty to do, however we do it, through mentoring, because we could reverse mentor people. Actually, we don't have to always be the mentors. We could say, actually, I would like to reverse mentor you, because actually what will make things different, picking up on what Hashiat said, is I think you are right. I think visibility, and this continued visibility, being out there, being you, will just slowly start to break the barriers down. But effectively what we're doing is we're educating people, aren't we? Because back in the 1970s, when I was a child, one of the things, I think I said this to you, Errum, when we met, that one of the most difficult things people ever said to me, and it was said to me probably on a weekly basis, they would make some comment about Black people and say, "But of course I don't mean you." And I'd want to say, "But unfortunately you do mean me." So kind of because you do, because in the 1970s, when I was young, there was immigration from Uganda, there was several, South Africa was becoming volatile, and when somebody said, and it was the only time, because it was hard actually to educate people in those days, but I think when somebody says, "Well, I don't mean you," you have to say, "Okay, well, you do mean me, but how do I explain to you that actually, if you see me as different to your stereotype, actually you don't have a problem with race." So I think our job is about educating, and in the broadest sense. I mean, Elizabeth was talking about educating the public, listening, and you need to listen to what people want. I think people come to us sometimes through ignorance, not antagonism. So it's about explaining to them, just let me help you understand. But the only way you do that is by keep being there, keep showing up. I remember when Ajali and Aisha kind of appeared on the scene, several of my colleagues said, "They're fantastic, aren't they?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they are fantastic." Of course they're fantastic. They would be fantastic whatever their gender, age or background, but they are actually, yes, particularly fantastic. And I just think, I think it is, it is another duty upon us, but I think it's also a privilege to be able to. But I think the only way that kind of that normalizing happens is if we keep going back,
being there, turning up, representing, right?
And seeing it as genuinely seeing it as educating people, assuming that the only, it is almost, isn't it, spreading the word. But
Thank you for staying with us and finishing episode 5. We're really, we've had some really interesting and reflective insights through this podcast. I've really enjoyed being part of it. We look forward to seeing you again in episode 6. Thanks.